Hey, what's going on everyone? This is my review of the RX-79G Ground Gundam in Master Grade form. I'm a big fan of the anime series 08th MS Team, so it was only a matter of time before I picked up this kit. I'll be reviewing this Master Grade Ground Gundam in 4 categories: the build, the appearance, the articulation, and the gimmicks. I'll give each a score from 1 to 5, and at the end I'll tally everything up for an average score. I'm really curious to see how this kit holds up after 15 years. Now let's get right into it. Part 1, the build. If you've seen my review of the Master Grade Alex, then you know these older kits can be nightmares. After building this kit though, I can safely say this is not one of those nightmarish kits. The build of this Master Grade is really great, especially for its time period. The manual can be a little dated in places, but if you're patient, even a beginner can make their way through it. Both the legs and the arms have a full inner frame. There are 4 screws though, 2 for the shoulders and 2 for the elbows. So have a small screwdriver on hand when you build this guy. Other than that, there's no need for glue with this kit. He's pretty sturdy as he is. There's also no real need for paint on this guy, aside from some basic detailing. You can pretty much just panel line this guy and have a great looking kit. I did have some free time though, so I decided to break out the paint and add some touch-ups. First off, I applied black paint to the vents on the side of the head. Panel lining looks okay, but I think paint looks even better. Thankfully, the side parts that need the paint are individual pieces, so they're really easy to just pop off, paint up, and put back in. After that, I added a black dot to the inside of the white guns on the chest. These guns are really prominent, so this is the great little touch-up you can add. I also went with paint for the black line on this red piece in the chest, just to make it stand out more. I did the same for the side of the chest and the panel line on the inner frame of the knees. A little side note though, this is just me nitpicking, but this gray rectangle on the front of the knee, well, it's supposed to be white. I actually kind of like it the way it is, even if it isn't anime accurate. All in all, the build for this kit is great. It's a little dated in terms of engineering, but when you think about how this kit came out less than a year after the Gundam Alex, it kinda gets a pass. I'd say this is a great second or third kit. I'll give the build for this kit a 4 out of 5. It's definitely above average, especially for its time. Part 2, the appearance. The proportions of this kit are great. Yeah, the head may be a little too large and the arms a little too thin, but everything else looks pretty good. I also love the colors of this kit. Maybe it's because I'm used to seeing the Ground Gundam all torn up like it is in the anime, but the colors of this Master Grade are really bright and saturated. I especially love the off-white of the armor. Now on to the decals. All of the numbering, lettering, and triangles are dry transfer, which is fantastic. You actually get the numbers and names for a few different teams too, which means you could buy 2 or 3 of these kits and make your own MS team. The usual caution signs come on a sheet of peel and stick decals. Nothing really interesting to see here. An interesting addition to this kit are these extra vents. Yeah, you get an extra set of vents you can just glue onto this guy. I guess they're for if you want a more realistic take on this Gundam or something. You also get a second set of handles for the shoulders. You get these round ones from the anime, and these more streamlined ones. The appearance of this kit is phenomenal. The proportions are pretty good, I love the colors, you get all the decals you need, and you even get a few optional parts. I'll give the appearance of this kit a near perfect score of 4.5 out of 5. As much as I like the proportions, they could have been done slightly better. Part 3, the articulation. As always, let's start with the feet. You get absolutely nothing, they're just bricks. The ankle guards do move a little though. The ankles themselves are on a weird ball joint and a hinge. So you get great movement forwards and backwards, but not as much as you'd like side to side. The ankle armor kinda gets in the way. The knee gets a little bit more than a 90-degree bend. It's above average for its time period, but it's nothing really that great. The hips are the old style ball and socket, so you get the usual forwards and backwards kicks, but not much in terms of splits or spins. There is a weird little extra hinge in here though, that allows you to move the whole leg forwards and backwards. It really helps with crouching poses. The skirts move just as you would expect. The back skirt is locked in place though. The chest is connected to the waist with a ball joint, so you get decent spins, but not much else. The chest itself is just a brick. There's nothing going on here aside from the cockpit opening up. The arms are connected to the shoulders via a ball joint, so you get full spins, and you can even move them up and down a little bit. The shoulders can pop forwards a little bit. It's really hampered by the shoulder armor though. The actual arms have the usual 360 spin on top, almost a 180-degree bend from the elbow, and the wrists are on ball joints. The hands are the old style trigger finger split. Unfortunately, this also means there are no pegs. The head is on a single ball joint, so you get basic movement out of it. The articulation is where this kit starts to show its age. You can really only get this guy into 2 or 3 basic poses. The legs just don't have that much to offer. I'll give the articulation of this kit an average score of 3 out of 5. It's a real shame too, because if any Gundam should be able to pull off cool ground poses, it should be the Ground Gundam. Part 4, the gimmicks. First up is the machine gun. It's pretty much all gray, so it doesn't exactly stand out. This guy also has serious issues holding this gun up because of the lack of pegs. It's not quite as bad as the Alex or RX-78-5 though, because the handle is a bit smaller. Next are the beam sabers. They function just how you would expect. Nothing really interesting to see here. They do stay in his hand a lot better than the gun though. After that you get a beam rifle. It requires a lot of painting though. It turns out all this gray is supposed to be white. If you've ever tried to paint white over black, you know just how much of a challenge this can be. So I straight up just didn't bother. The shield of this kit is really cool. Not only do I like the design of it, but it has a really cool feature too. You can actually put it on the ground and attach his final weapon, the artillery cannon. Yep, that's the big weapon for this kit. It's this massive cannon. It's so big in fact, that it actually comes in multiple different sections you have to screw together. You can store all these different sections in this dedicated backpack. I really like this idea. Having this cannon on his back at all times makes me way more likely to use it rather than just Ziploc bag it away and forget about it. The cannon itself can be a bit of a challenge for him to hold up though, because the arms don't pop out that far. So pretty much every pose you do with this thing is going to look awkward from certain angles. And don't forget the lack of pegs on this kit. Still, it looks good when it's in that Zeta Gundam pose I like so much. You get 2 optional sets of hands for this kit, but unfortunately they're useless. It's just a set of open hands and closed fist. As for the gimmicks of the actual suit, there's only one, and that's the beam saber holders on the inside of the legs. They function pretty much as you would expect, but it can be a bit difficult to get the beam sabers in securely. Still, it's more of a positive than a negative, and is a really inventive way to store the beam sabers. All in all, this guy comes with all the basics, but the lack of pegs really hurts. The backpack for storing the cannon is great though. I'll give the gimmicks of this kit a slightly above average score of 3.5 out of 5. Okay, time to wrap this up for a final verdict. The build was a 4 out of 5. It's aged really well actually. There's no mandatory painting, yet still a few places you can touch up. It's also a pretty simple build, just make sure you have a screwdriver handy. The appearance was a 4.5 out of 5. This guy just looks great. I really like the colors and all the options to customize this build. The proportions also aren't as bad as a lot of kits from this time period. The articulation was a 3 out of 5. This is where the kit starts to show its age. You can really only put this guy into 2 or 3 interesting poses. And finally the gimmicks, which received a 3.5 out of 5. It's above average, mainly because of how many weapons you get, but the lack of pegs really hurt this guy. On top of that, the beam rifle is a complete waste. I do really like the backpack storage for the cannon though. Tallying all that up and dividing, this Master Grade Gundam receives an average score of 3.75 out of 5, but I'd round that up to a 3.8. In terms of a percentage, this kit receives a 75%. That may seem kinda low in comparison to the other kits I've reviewed, but remember, this kit came out in 2001. It's been over 15 years, and this kit is still a great way to add the Ground Gundam to your shelf. I don't think there's any point in waiting for a 2.0 of this kit. This is one old school Master Grade that still holds up pretty well. Now, feel free to leave any questions or comments you have about this kit, and I'm more than happy to get back to you. Also, feel free to recommend more Master Grades for me to review, and I'll see what I can do. Thanks for watching.